This is Bruce Friedman of Adult Site Broker, and welcome to Adult Site Broker Talk, where each week we interview one of the movers and shakers of the adult industry, and we give you a tip on buying and selling websites. This week we'll be speaking with author, performer, and educator, Kaz B. I'll be in Cali, Colombia for the LAL Expo, April 27th through the 29th. I hope to see many of you there. If you'd like to sit down and discuss business, contact me at adultsitebroker.com. We're proud to announce our latest project, thewaronporn.com. You'll find articles on age verification laws and other attacks on our industry. It's to raise awareness of our industry's plight in the war on porn. You'll find all that and more at thewaronporn.com. Now time for our properties for sale at Adult Site Broker. We're proud to offer a rapidly growing OnlyFans chat agency with strong SEO. The company has over 30 clients with very little churn. Their clients range from around $10,000 to over $150,000 a month. There's a strong team in place that handles hiring, training, management, quality assurance, and the chatters. The company continues to grow and innovate. They're adding 2 new clients representing $185,000 a month and a large creator with 3 million subscribers on YouTube. New technical features include an enhanced chatter portal, a new creator billing dashboard with daily billing, and an automated blog system to grow SEO. The company's set up with very little upkeep needed by the owners. It's a cash cow that's still growing fast. We have the largest foot fetish creator site in the German-speaking market. The site is a leading niche platform that's been the #1 brand in the market for over 3 years. It was built to serve a highly engaged audience with a strong, recognizable brand and a proven monetization model. The site is a highly profitable business with consistent revenue, an established SEO footprint, and strong brand authority in its niche. We have a buyer who's looking for OnlyFans agencies, chatting companies, and OnlyFans traffic sites. He owns one of the top OnlyFans agencies in the world and many of the types of companies listed above. They have a large budget to acquire multiple properties. We're offering a growing free porn gaming site with adult sex games. The site is owned by one of the top entrepreneurs in our industry. We have a premium AI companion platform focused on emotional realism and deep memory. Users interact with lifelike companions that remember every detail and respond with real emotion. They've just added advanced video capabilities. We have a network of BDSM subreddits that has over 1.49 million users, over 3.8 million posts, and almost 45,000 comments. We have a buyer who's looking for dating and lifestyle sites in Europe. They also would consider other geos. They currently operate some very successful sites. And there's a highly active, organically grown Reddit community centered around the stalking and foot fetish niches. It's one of the leading spaces for adult fetish content on Reddit. For more information on any of these listings, go to our listings page or contact us at adultsitebroker.com. Now time for this week's interview. My guest today on Adult Site Broker Talk is author, performer, and educator, Kaz B. Kaz, thanks for being with us on Adult Site Broker Talk.
Hi, Bruce. Oh, it's an absolute honor to be on board and doing the show with you today.
Don't be too honored. It's not all that. Anyway, let's tell everyone about you. Kaz B is a multi-passionate author, performer, and educator based in the southwest of England, whose creative journey spans broadcasting comedy, conscious kink, and literary soul work. Her bold, genre-defying titles include Sordid Secrets, Dreaming in the Dark, Confessions of a Dominatrix, and The Brutal Guide to BDSM, alongside her most recent work, The Bridge of Moonfire, a metaphysical collaboration with an awakened AI. And that sounds interesting. A former media coordinator for the BBC, Kaz began her career in broadcasting in 2003 and quickly became a voice of both insight and irreverence. She hosted the satirical podcast Reality Bites, has contributed to a wide range of publications, including The Guardian, The Sun, Daily Sport, Closer, and Company, and has been featured across podcasts discussing books, authorship, kink, and creative entrepreneurship. As a professional dominatrix, kink mentor, and blogger, Kaz is a respected voice within the BDSM community, known for blending empowerment, humor, and ethical education. Her background as a fetish film and content creator has earned her international recognition, and her acting credits span indie thrillers, grindhouse horror, and music videos, including Mark Almond's It's a Kind of Love. A natural performer and magnetic storyteller, Kaz is equally at home on stage, on screen, or behind a mic. Whether through TikTok satire, poetic rituals, or bold essays on intimacy and power, her work invites audiences into a world where curiosity reigns, taboos are transformed, and authenticity is the ultimate act of rebellion. So, Kaz, you've had such a varied career from broadcasting to adult work to writing. Can you share a bit about what first drew you into broadcasting and how those early skills shaped the path you've taken since?
Absolutely, yeah. When I was younger, I was an avid reader, so I was always buried in a book or reading through all the daily newspapers. And, a lot of my role models growing up were TV presenters, and I suppose the likes of Denise Van Outen, Zoe Ball. It was a world that just really fascinated me. So when I was at university, I studied media writing. And then shortly afterwards, I absolutely inundated the BBC with applications and letters. And I think eventually they got sick of me just keep pestering them. So I managed to get a couple of contracts with them, and it went on for quite a while. And that involved TV scheduling. I was very lucky. They did a lot of in-house work experience programs if you applied. So I was on BBC One Radio Live when Pete Tong was DJing. I got to shadow the producers. There was a lot of opportunities to shadowing and pick up some basic skills. So I think it was a good basis for PR and marketing and for presenting. So later, when I went on to do things such as presenting for TVX, it came in really handy because I already knew the format, the structure, what people wanted, and it seemed to have just come up time and time again. So I've learned so much that is transferable, such as social media marketing and stuff that I still use to this day. So it's been a fascinating journey.
Sounds like it. Now, the adult industry is often misunderstood. What did you learn about creativity and resilience during your time in it?
I would say I learned a lot about that. I think the first thing is you have to think on your feet and paint on a smile even when life brings its challenges. And there can be quite a few in the adult industries. There can be quite a lot of obstacles and challenges. And, days are super fun. And other times when things don't quite go to plan or there's miscommunication, as in any industry that can happen. So, and I think my out-the-box ideas were really appreciated in that adult space as well. It gave me a fascinating insight into the human psyche and how unique everyone is, and, what drives them, what their desires are, and, how we're all just seeking something in life, whether it be validation or some kind of escape. And the adult world is very much about fantasy and escape, but also about connection and people feeling seen.
Absolutely. So you're now an author. Was there a pivotal moment where you felt the pull to write?
I think the first time I remembered the pull to write was probably when I started reading Enid Blyton and Oscar Wilde. I was probably about 7 years of age. And I just felt so inspired by the famous five, The Faraway Tree, Oscar Wilde's The Nightingale and The Lonely Prince. And it made me really want to write myself. So I began writing short stories back then. And, at the time it was the scribblings of an infant. And later on I studied writing and also did some creative classes as well as my degree. And the main thing is I always say to everyone, you don't need a degree to write. You just need your truth and your authenticity. I was very lacking in confidence at the time, but that's all you need. You need a pen or a typewriter or a laptop and your story. So just get writing. And I always found that the more that I write, the more I feel inspired by the things around me.
How do you balance honoring your background in adult work while stepping into new spaces, such as being an author and a creative?
There's a lot of stigma still attached to adult content, but, it's an outlet for people, isn't it? Just like any other. Anything to excess is unhealthy, but consumed in moderation, it's a really healthy way for people to express themselves. So for me, I learned so much about people. And the main thing that I've really kept close to my heart is about creating safe spaces for people, for their creativity and expression as well. Places where they can express themselves and be free of judgment.
Sure. So you run an OnlyFans and you practice BDSM. You're also writing books and building wider projects. How does this all fit together? Or does it?
I mean, it does. At the core, it does. But some days it feels like a balancing act. And other days it just flows. But I think in life we often try and fit ourselves into these tiny little boxes, don't we? But I just want people to know that we're not defined by what we do. What's most important is creating stories, creating space to share, and ultimately creating understanding. So all of the different aspects of my work, it has that dynamic running across, and I'm always seeking truth and expression. And that is the pinnacle, I suppose.
You've done an incredible amount of things. I mean, do you ever stop to think, I've done this, and this?
Occasionally. It's usually when I give myself a bit of a pep talk and I'm thinking, I've been a bit lazy for a couple of days. I really need to. And I just sit there and go, no, actually, you've done this. You checked this box. You've done that. But I think my brain is always seeking novel experiences. And I get like a real buzz out of creating new projects and, just like trying to inspire and uplift others as well. So that's always something that pushes me on if I'm having a day where I'm not feeling motivated. And sometimes it's a case of trying to remind myself, actually, it's okay to rest. It's okay to take a breather.
Sure. Now, what role does ambition play for you? What excites you and keeps work interesting?
I would say reinvention. So I'm constantly reinventing myself because I'm someone who probably, I'm not great with routine. If I did the same thing day in, day out, I'd probably start to feel a little bit, I suppose, understimulated. So transformation gives me purpose. So I'm constantly looking to evolve. So I like to have lots of different projects on the go, and that gives me the mental stimulation I need. So whether that be conducting DOM sessions online or in person, writing about my experiences, or creating another kind of project, I find that it all seems to boost my creativity.
What of all the things you've done do you think you like the most?
Oh, that's such a tough question. What do I like the most? Probably the acting, actually. And I think that comes in various forms. So obviously in BDSM, there is times when I just play myself. And other times, especially when role plays and scenarios are involved, obviously there's some level of acting involved in that. But also some of the adverts I've done, the horror films, the thrillers, I absolutely love playing out roles. And I guess that's where people's fantasies come into play as well. It's like, oh, today I'm going to be an evil scientist who wants a PIN code out of somebody. Or I'm going to be a headmistress or a policewoman who kidnaps somebody. So it's all stepping into that sphere where it's drama and very theatrical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What advice would you give to someone who feels restricted by one identity but longs to explore other passions without losing where they came from?
I think the important thing to remember is that it's always okay to start over and try something new. But the key thing is not forgetting the experiences that made you who you are. Because we often go through life and think, well, we change every 5 years. So you think, oh, I was here. How do I get from there to there? Or I want to try that. And I think fear often holds us back. So I've always sort of said to myself, don't pigeonhole yourself. Don't worry about what other people think. And this is the advice I'd give to anyone listening as well that wants to try something new. People are always going to, a lot of people are always going to be very cynical if they don't understand it themselves. But it's better to risk failure and learn something and take a lesson from it than it is to never try. So I would always push forward And just put your heart into it, put your can't speak, authenticity into it, and just be you.
So you've done so many things. What haven't you done that you'd like to do?
Oh, that's a really good question. Another good one. So I have done quite a lot of things. I have never made a feature film. I have scripted one or a comedy series. I've scripted a couple. So one day, when time and funds and everything else allows, I would love to do like shoot an indie movie or create a comedy series. Those are things that I feel very passionate about, and I think the thought inspires me. The thought of making other people either feel a profound moment or even just entertained and making them laugh is something that is uplifting.
What kind of entertainment do you gravitate towards?
So, entertain, are we talking film? Are we talking...
I'm just talking in your spare time. What do you spend your leisure time doing to entertain you?
Well, I'd love to sit here and say I read hundreds of books every week, but truthfully, that's not the case these days. I tend to pick up a book when I know I've got quite a bit of time to spare, because I get so engrossed I can't put it down, and that can be quite problematic. But I do love a good thriller. I love reading thrillers. So in my spare time, the media that I consume is, I do like my zombie series, sci-fi, anything dystopian as well. And just getting out. I do kickboxing. I love kickboxing. Getting out into the countryside, because I think it's all about balance, isn't it? I'm really into like tech, believe it or not, AI, and I think it's about balance, because it's very unhealthy to spend too much time like in front of a screen. So I try to limit that and get out there as much as possible. But sometimes you just get those days, don't you, where you think, God, it's been such a week. All I want to do is sit down and just put Netflix on and lose myself in something, completely out there.
That's what I was doing before we talked.
Oh, fantastic. What were you watching?
Quincy Jones.
Oh, I've not seen that one. Any good?
Well, that's a person. He's a very famous, was very famous and monumental composer, musician, worked with everybody. Sinatra, Stevie Wonder, all the jazz greats, you name it. He worked with them. So, it was one of the all-time amazing people in the music business, for sure.
Ah, so you're a bit of a music buff then?
Oh, yes, most definitely.
I noticed Sinatra popped up there, one of my old-time faves.
Oh, yeah. Well, Quincy Jones was involved in a lot of his music. So looking back at your journey so far, what link do you see running through it all? What's always been you, no matter the setting?
I think the thing that's always been me is seeking truth, seeking opportunities where I can express myself. And obviously, along the way, that's turned into or transformed into helping others be able to express themselves as well. So that is the link, from journalism to creating OnlyFans content to a safe space in a BDSM session where someone might come in and they say, "Oh, I've got this scenario that I'd like to play out, but it might sound a bit out there. I don't want to sound weird." So it's given people that space to go, well, no, actually, it's not weird. It's exploration. It's adventure. It's playtime. So yeah, tell me what that thing is, and we'll have some fun.
Don't you think that's kind of a common thing if somebody is first exploring, not that I have, but if somebody's first exploring BDSM, don't you think that they probably think that everyone thinks what they have in mind is weird?
Yeah, definitely. And that's why connection is so important, because I've had so many newcomers say to me, "You might find this a bit weird. Let me know if it is." I would say 99.9 times out of 100, it's not weird. It's just something they want to explore on their personal journey, or a kink, something that just like sets their soul alive and ignites the fire within them and helps them to relax. I mean, some of my subs say it's been fantastic for their mental health because it gives them an outlet. Others say that it helps them feel more understood. And more importantly, they understand a bit more about themselves as well. Because it's quite brave to go out there and say, right, I've got this kink that I can't share with anyone, so I'm going to go and see a dominatrix. I think that first step can be quite daunting and intimidating for new slaves. So I've even had subs turn up to a session after obviously the initial chat, and they've written everything down in note form. They said, okay, I'm not quite ready to speak this aloud, but can we do this? Can we go straight into role play? So in those scenarios, and maybe this is where I can really, really relate, to them as well, is once you're in that role, it's very easy to flow into it. And it becomes like playtime. Whereas I guess for some of my subs, speaking about it beforehand can feel a little bit daunting. But once they're in the flow and relaxed, it's plain sailing and a lot of fun.
What do you do to set them at ease?
Well, I think it's very much about listening to what they want, what they're looking for, without judgment as well. I mean, if anyone come in and ask for anything illegal or dangerous, obviously I would explain to them that that's not possible. But I would try to do that in an understanding way. So yeah, I think that's what most subs look for. They look to feel seen, understood, and the play is like an added bonus. They're living out something that they might have thought about for sometimes 5, 10, 15 years and never had the opportunity. So yeah, it's an opportunity for them to just really relax into it. So I think I try to approach it with a nurturing frame of mind. Especially for first timers, I'll say, look, don't worry, we've got a safe word. That's imperative. I'm not going to do anything that's on your hard limits list. We can take it slowly. So you've always got your safe word as an anchor to refer back to. And in the meantime, let's just have some fun and then just relax them into it. And I never start off with anything too extreme. It's always about building the experience. So a bit of slow conversation, slowly into the session. And then if they do want to do something more extreme, such as whipping, caning, pegging, that comes once I can see they've visibly relaxed. I know they're ready for it.
What got you into that in the first place?
Oh, I think it was sort of, well, to be honest, I've always been a bit kinky. I remember owning my first pair of fluffy handcuffs when I was about, well, let's just say in my late teens. Late teens. So I always had like a bit of a spicy frame of mind, but I didn't know it was called kink or fetish. Those terms came much later. So I suppose the first time I really encountered the femdom, can't say the word, I should be able to say that word really well, the femdom side of things was when I was on Sport TV XXX. I don't know if you know what that is. No? So just for anyone who doesn't know, it was a late night TV show. So we would present, a little bit like a show like the UK's This Morning, but much more spicy and kinkier. And then in between, we'd take calls from the audience. So I would have submissives calling me up and saying, I love your leather boots, mistress. Can you dominate me? So that was when I went and started to research it and thought, this sounds really interesting. And then, before you know it, I was webcamming. I was putting on those kinky boots, lavishing a whip and telling men what to do and to get onto their knees and be good boys for me.
I tell you, what a world. You're in the UK. And I don't get a chance to talk to a lot of people in the adult industry in your neck of the woods. Talk a little bit about some of the legalities that are coming down out there, because it seems to be rather extreme.
Yeah, it really is. So recently, Ofcom passed some new regulations. So everything has to be age verified within the UK now. So that means even my little, I call it a little blog, it's got hundreds upon hundreds of blogs on it, and it ranks quite highly on Google. But as far in the big grand scheme of things, it's considered a little blog. It's not like Brazzers or any of the big sites. Even that has to have age verification on it. So that there's been a lot of changes. I know they tried to bring this in a couple of times years ago. So
for a while.
Yeah. They've whipped it in through the back. Well, we did know, but they've kind of whipped it in through the back door because a lot of people still don't know it exists. So we've got that. Plus certain well, I was going to say certain websites. All of the websites have to adhere to certain terms if they're not governed by, but if they're, one of their billing providers is MasterCard or Visa, for example, and it's quite obscure, some other things that you're not allowed to do. So one of the sites that I've used and I have content on, I noticed they've certain things, words you can't mention or refer to. Aliens is one of them, and mermaids.
That's funny.
Yeah, so I just quite can't get my head around that one. And I suppose we're now in a world where the goalposts are forever changing. And I don't know what your thoughts are on the whole thing, but it's become quite the minefield.
You don't have enough time. I've got a site called thewaronporn.com where a lot of this is documented. So I was kind of curious as to what your take was on that, and I appreciate it.
Fantastic. I'd love to check that out.
You should. Everybody should.
Yeah, what is it?
It's called thewaronporn.com.
Thewaronporn.com. Everybody go and check that out. It's very important in the industry and for any users of porn as well.
Yes, indeed. What's the vision you're working toward now?
I've got quite a few projects on the boil. And I can't really share all the information of that right now because the classic thing they say, get something finished before you put it out there because it's subject to, whatever it is you call it, whether it be like a bit of energetic negativity or kind of counting your chickens. So let's just say one of the projects is going to be educational but very spicy. And another project I'm working on is another book, but it's going to be more in the, I love thrillers, just to give a clue. So it's going to be, not so much about kink and BDSM. So yeah, for the foreseeable future, I'm enjoying my kink sessions, creating OnlyFans content, and somehow squeezing all the other stuff in between. So 2026 is going to be the year for all the new stuff.
Very good. What can people find if they go to your OnlyFans?
Oh, well, if I'm completely, these days, there's a lot of stuff that you're not allowed to show, so they're not going to find pegging content on there, unfortunately. But if there are pictures of me with my strap on, there's hundreds and hundreds of videos and images from over the years. There's a lot of foot fetish content, heels, stockings. I think the main thing is that it's interactive as well. So people can go anywhere on the internet and find free porn. That's the truth. So the great thing about OnlyFans is that it is interactive. You can video chats, you can book texting sessions, which I found are really, really popular. That's something I do a lot of, right? Especially when people may not have the privacy at home or at work, wherever they are, to do a live video session. They can text, so it's offering an alternative. So yeah, those are some of the things you can find. It's the interactive services as well that you can just sneak into little corners of your lifestyle.
But no mermaids.
No more what, sorry?
No mermaids.
No mermaids or aliens, unfortunately.
Or aliens. Yes, that was the other one. Oh, my God. If someone picks up your book or listens to your words, what do you hope they feel walking away?
I'd like to think they'd feel seen. I think that's the main thing. A lot of my experiences have been about turning shadows into stories and seeking the lesson in every experience. And some of those experiences have been insightful or messy or wild. So for me, it's very much about encouraging others. So I hope they feel empowered to tackle the things they didn't feel good enough for. And I'd like them to take encouragement with my words and just have faith in themselves. If they've struggled like I have in the past, struggling with self-belief, because I did have many people communicate and message me after I wrote Confessions and say, wow, it's uncanny how many similarities there are, and reason that I didn't know anyone else experienced that. So that's what I want them to take with them, the fact that you can achieve anything. You just got to believe in yourself.
Yeah. By the way, you mentioned something about people having ideas for play that wouldn't be safe. How often does that happen?
I'd say not so much these days, as I'm an established dom. I've got a lot of content out there, a lot of blogs excessively about safety and with comedic moments. and the do's and the don'ts. So my stuff is very publicly available out there for people to see. But I suppose amongst some of the top ones, I had someone ask me to put hair straighteners on their penis, an absolute no-no. I've had people ask me for things that I just consider a bit dangerous as well. Like people want to be threatened with real knives, or just things that you think no, or try to, in regards to pegging, maybe try and use a dildo that's a bit too big the first time. And I always say, look, you need to build up, start small and build up. That cannot go straight in because it could cause an injury. But it's fascinating what people feel intrigued to explore.
Yeah. So as a dominatrix, what challenges, insights, and moments of positivity appear to you?
Oh, all of the time. So I have a lovely group of subs on X, and we'll uplift and inspire each other. It's not just subs, it's doms, subs, kinksters. So we all, and we have a couple of private groups as well where we uplift. But I guess it's just seeing people being able to express themselves and do things that they love. So I went to an event Sunday called the Birmingham Bazaar in Birmingham, and it's an eclectic day out where I was there selling my books, but many people just go to explore and have a look around. And I had, what was so beautiful, I had some couples come up to me and they were just starting out on their kink journey, and they said the beautiful thing about it is they'd been in the industry, well, not in the industry, but they've been exploring kink for 2 years, and they said, when you think you know quite a lot, something else comes along and surprises you. And I love that when there's like so much excitement and adventure and things to discover, because in this world there always is. Every moment is just beautiful.
Mm-hmm. How does kink and BDSM differ from people's idea of it who aren't into it?
Oh, hugely. So funnily enough, I was having this conversation at the BBB the other day. So in the room, there was people dressed in such an eclectic. So let me give you an example. So some of the costumes, there was a PVC sissy, and he had a dummy in and a fully dress and big bloomers. There was another submissive chap dressed as a schoolboy carrying a teddy bear. I saw people dressed as furries in big fluffy animal costumes. So every kind of person was just, accepted there and allowed to be themselves. I just found that so beautiful that everyone could just come to this event, be themselves, express who they wanted to be inside, and there was no judgment at all.
That's cool. In BDSM, do you normally play a role, or is your persona your true self?
It really depends on the sub. So say, for example, if I've seen one of my subs for 5 years, they're going to see more of the real me than anyone else, perhaps. So that there might be moments. I've got a few that I would talk to, quite normally about life in the universe. And there's others where there's more of a persona. So I guess they would see the side of me that is Mistress Kaz, either strict or playful but teasing, or just completely immersed in a different role. So, and I would always say as well, the really important thing, what makes a strong foundation is mutual respect, and also respecting each other's personal boundaries as well. And that makes for a much better DS dynamic.
Mm-hmm. So your book, Confessions of a Dominatrix, is very honest. Were some of the chapters hard to write? And if so, why?
Yeah. So when I first began writing it, I think it takes us back to probably about 2016, I'm going to say. I was writing that memoir. So yeah, some of it was very raw, and I've realised to myself that I hadn't quite processed a lot of it, and I may have not loosely, but I might have casually spoken about bits and pieces, but I'd never really explored it fully, even in my own brain. I sort of maybe repressed or blocked certain bits. So writing through certain chapters, like to do with the abuse, to do with like the cats that were, struggling with their health, and even some of the adult experiences that didn't go to plan as well. I'd realised I'd pushed it down and put a cap on it. So all of that came tumbling out. And there was chapters with like tears streaming down my face, especially when I wrote about my dad as well. But every time I edited it, it was kind of like picking at a wound, but ultimately it was cathartic. And afterwards, there was just such a sense of relief. Like, I've done it now. I've processed it. It's done. I can move on.
Give me the most bizarre story from the book.
Oh, from Confessions, I'd probably say one of my favourite chapters is the Latex Trooper, the Gimp chapter. So, do you want me to go into why?
Please.
So, I had a slave called Latex Trooper, a very kinky young man, lovely gentleman as well. And he turned to me one day and he said, I really want to experience forced buy. Is that something you can help with? And I just happened to mention it to the person I was with at the time. And they were like, yeah, I'll do it. So I just thought, okay, fantastic. Let's set that up then. So we set up the session. And I don't want to give everything away. I'd say to anyone listening, go and read that chapter. But it's kind of absolute chaos. So he's on the bed in a rubber mask, naked. And, my then boyfriend comes in dressed, a bit like a cross between Ozzy Osbourne and Cher with a string vest on. I think, I'm not sure what he'd taken, but he was very limp and struggling to excite himself, even though his brain was switched on. So he jumps into the scene and stuffs his appendage into Latex Trooper's mouth, and Latex is trying to, pleasure him. And that goes on for a while. And then I walk in with a ginormous strap on. And I'm whipping the sub on the bottom and writing on his body like derogatory terms in, well, I don't think it was permanent marker. Let's hope it wasn't. Can't remember now. And then at one point, my ex jumped up to start trying to film everything, and you see flashes of the ceiling and the bed with a ginormous strap on and the ceiling again. And then suddenly you can just hear him ordering a Chinese takeaway in the background, like on top of this porno. It's just absolute carnage.
Oh God, that sounds hilarious.
Yeah. At the time, it was a bit like, oh my God, like this isn't going as planned. But it's one of those things when you look back, it's absolute hilarity, and you can see the funny side.
Yeah, it sounds like BDSM can be good comedy sometimes.
Oh yeah, 100%, really good comedy. And I think my favourite part from that is probably where I used to call him like the Keanu Reeves of porn, because whatever was going on, his face would be completely deadpan. There'd be no expression whatsoever. So at one point, I leave the room and he's just jerking off, and he's sucking on this ice pop I've given him. He's got this ice pop in his mouth and he's jerking off, and there's just no expression. And I've skimmed through, and this goes on for about 15 minutes. So yeah, it can get quite random.
That's a little weird. Okay. So what was it like collaborating, I can talk too, on the Ruthless Guide to BDSM?
Oh, it was fantastic. It was so much fun. So, the Dom that I wrote it with, Lady Rampage, is a good friend of mine. And the best thing about it is that we call it book club. So on Wednesday night, we do book club, and we'd be on the phone for about 3 hours. So sometimes I go off and write my stories, or she'd write hers, and we compare. But then we'd have the book club every night. So we'd often go through what we'd each written, and then we'd just get into BDSM chat and sessions. And we both found that bouncing stories off each other helped the other remember things and experiences that they live through as well. So it was kind of like, imagine girls' night, just hanging out, chatting BDSM, but obviously with a purpose to it. So it was a great amount of fun. And obviously there's collaborations from the other kinksters in the book as well. So that wasn't on the phone, that was in writing, but that added such a valuable layer, really getting to see people's true stories and what it was like for them finding out they had a kink.
Mm-hmm. In this book, you gave a voice to the kink community. Why was that important to you?
Because I don't think anyone else has, as far as I know, anyone else has done that. Whenever I've bought BDSM books, it's always, most of the time it's from the perspective of a mistress, occasionally a master or a submissive female, but you don't really get those real raw voices come through unfiltered. So, and I feel like the BDSM community has really been there for me and done a lot for me and helped me feel supported. So I wanted to give something back. So I thought, what is the best way to support a community, let them feel heard, give them a voice, like you do with your podcasts. So I wanted I wanted them to be able to share their unique stories, and I hope it was as cathartic and entertaining for them as it was for me.
Of all the things you've done, what role would you like to play in the future?
What role would I like to play in the future? Oh, we're talking no limits here because, okay, fantastic. Right, so I think I'd like to play a super villainess in a thriller movie, or maybe it's sci-fi.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's something that I do quite a lot in my sessions as well. So I'll often play the secret agent. I might have a sub tied up to a chair. I have to get the PIN code out of them. So I subject them to a series of psychological and physical torments until they reveal the information I'm looking for.
Interesting. I mean, is there anything in being a dominatrix that you haven't done that you'd like to do?
In being a dominatrix, is there anything I haven't done yet? And I've been doing this a long time. My dabbling's begun in around 2007. I've been doing it since 2014 properly. So there's been a lot I have done. What haven't I done? Well, I don't think I've ever done a 10 dominatrix session. That could be...
What's that?
A session with 10 dominatrixes.
Oh my God.
That would be quite wild.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, or maybe something that just feels even more real and raw. So I've heard of these camps in places like Czechoslovakia and Eastern Europe where your sub is housed for, say, up to a week in like an imprisonment style area, literally fed food in a bowl on the floor. They have limited access to facilities, and yeah, they're treated like a prisoner. So I think I'd like to do something like that, but on a smaller scale.
Do dominatrixes often work together?
It's really tricky in the UK. It's really tricky because under the law, if you work with another dom, it's constituted as a brothel. However, if there's a camera there, it doesn't count because it's adult content. So yeah, from what I understand, a lot of DOMs do work together, and it's pretty much turned a blind eye to in the UK, unless it's creating disturbances or any real major issues. But they're trying to bring in the Nordic model at the moment, which will be an absolute disaster.
Yeah, that's a disaster every place they try it.
Yeah, it's just a flawed system, isn't it? It's never going to work. Not, all it's going to do is create more harm, not help anyone.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly with you. Look, the key to everything is legalization as far as I'm concerned. And, the Nordic model is far from that, right?
Yeah. It's all about discriminating against the client, which, thereby puts the provider in a difficult position as well. So it doesn't help anybody. It's all about, control and oppression. And then if we look at countries where obviously sexuality and freedom of expression is repressed, without naming anywhere, where it's deeply repressed, then you have a whole lot of other issues. And a lot of those people love going to DOMs in the UK or to sex workers because they can explore it safely. But, it just makes you realise that every single human, whatever they practice or believe, they've all got that inherent need to feel connection and to express themselves. So, yeah, we need more of that, not less of it.
Amen to that. Kaz, I'd like to thank you for being with us today on Adult Side Broker Talk, and I hope we'll get a chance to do it again soon.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to do that again soon. Thank you so much for today, Bruce, and I hope everyone tunes in.
Thank you.
My broker tip today is part 7 of how to buy a site. Last week, we talked about the agreement and escrow. So now you own the website. What do you do now? The first thing you should do is make sure you understand everything about the operation of the site. The previous owner will hopefully be available for a period of time to help you with this. As I mentioned last week, you should establish what the former owner's participation will be after the sale. You'll need to deal with production of new content, processing, paying affiliates, and many other things. If you don't have experience in these areas, you may want to consider using our general consulting firm, Adult Business Consulting. You can get more information on what this company does at adultbusinessconsulting.com. We help website owners project manage and guide them to the right vendors. Maybe the previous owner had all the right elements: processing, hosting, payments, production, scripts, etc. Or maybe they didn't. We can help evaluate that for you. Let us know if we can help. Anyway, you'll now be operating the website. If you don't have someone like our general consulting firm to help, evaluate all of those items and everything the site is spending money on and using to operate the site. Make sure you're getting a good deal and that these companies are providing the right service, and check to see if you can do better. Hosting is a great example on something where people are often both overpaying and not getting the right service. Many times a server is just too slow. If you have any questions about any of this, feel free to reach out to us on our site. Next week, we'll talk about how to sell a website. And next week, we'll be speaking with Max Hune of Money Shot Magic. And that's it for this week's Adult Site Broker Talk. I'd once again like to thank my guest, Kaz B. Talk to you again next week on Adult Site Broker Talk. I'm Bruce Friedman.